with Nelson Jordan. I'm Chris Nelson. If you have not done so already, please go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube page, follow us on all of our social media pages, and listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. The Cleveland Browns are going to be starting quarterback Dillon Gabriel at quarterback against the Minnesota Vikings at Tottenham in London this weekend, replacing Joe Flacco as the starter. Nelson, what were your takeaways from the decision?
I thought Cleveland, they had to make a change. I've been saying it now for a couple of weeks now. That defense for Cleveland looks good. Now, I know we're not expecting them to make it to the playoffs by any means, but if I'm Stefanski and I want to keep my job, well, I have two, possible players in my back pocket besides, what we already have and already found with Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco needs everything around him to be settled for him to be successful. So Gabriel, no tapes on him. We saw what he did in Oregon. We saw how he had his moments. He does have a little bit of a gutsy moxie to himself. And we'll see. He's going to go up against a very talented team in the Minnesota Vikings, especially on defense. So it'll be an awesome test. We already saw with Jackson Dart, surprising a lot of folks, against Los Angeles Chargers. So this will be interesting. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, I go the other way with that, actually. And we've talked about this in the past, and we just talked about it with Jackson Dart a week ago. My take on it is, if Dillon Gabriel was the guy, you would have known that in training camp, unless Kevin Stefanski has just completely lost any quality ability he has as a head coach. You felt like Joe Flacco was your guy. That didn't suddenly change. Joe Flacco didn't suddenly get far worse. Dillon Gabriel didn't suddenly get far better. You knew in camp who you had. It's a game-to-game thing. Joe Flacco might have played poorly in some of the games so far this season, including the most recent one against the Detroit Lions, which, to be fair, that's a really good team. But who knows how he's going to perform against the Minnesota Vikings and a banged-up Vikings team at that. If you feel like there's a matchup advantage with Dillon Gabriel, okay, maybe you work him in, but you also took him in the third round. There's a reason for that. You're probably not expecting him to be a starter as a rookie, as a third-round draft pick. I'm not saying it never happens. He could come in and surprise, but if he was going to do that, you would have seen it during camp. I know he had some injuries and missed some time, but so did Joe Flacco. There was enough practice and enough preseason time spent in the games, that you knew what you had. So this decision just doesn't make any sense to do it now. My problem with it is, if you're going to do it the whole season. Let him start all 17 games. Let's see what he really has. Or ride out Joe Flacco and allow Dillon Gabriel to fully develop instead of throwing him to the Wolves. We're going to find out if he is being thrown to the Wolves based on how he plays on Sunday and going forward, assuming he remains the starter, and we'll see on that front. And if we have to have a conversation about that not being the case, that's an even bigger disaster. But if he does play well, you start to wonder, why wasn't he the starter to begin with? So that's my takeaway from it. I leave it at that. The quarterback situation for the Browns is an absolute mess. We know what's going on with Deshaun Watson missing the season, all their money they're paying him. It's the biggest problem with the Browns. They drafted two quarterbacks. They brought in Joe Flacco. They trade Kenny Pickett after the preseason. Tyler Huntley was with them in the preseason. The list goes on. It's a complete mess. I don't know that I've ever seen a team have such a mess at the quarterback position. And it's not just now. This is the culmination of since they returned as a franchise in 1999. I mean, we're talking about more than 25 years worth of this now. So there's not much else to be said with it.
Sure.
Well, that's all we have in this one, guys. For Nelson Jordan, I'm Chris Nelson. This has been the First and Final Word.